Hello, welcome to WGSN-DB Going Solo Network. You're listening to Going Solo Life After Relationship Loss with WGSN, again, Going Solo Network. This is a TV podcast and a radio station, and we are the number one internet singles talk network. See what happens when I get a little bit distracted? I just keep going in all these different directions. Those of you that don't know me, I am Cece. I'm the doyenne of relationship building, and you're on the goingsolonetwork.com. We've got a great author here today, so we're going to showcase the Author's Corner, and we are so pleased to be able to do that. This author is quite unique because she really truly has a passion for helping others. Her books share how her life is in life is raw, painful, and often leads us on a journey we've never expected or imagined. She truly impacts her readers on a deep emotional level through the storytelling. She aims to inspire, uplift, and provoke thoughtful conversations. You know, that is an amazing thing to be able to do, not only to put the pen to paper, right, so to speak, to be able to tell a story, but to tell a story in a way that can actually make us aware of what our surroundings are and show some compassion. And so this author we have here today is just like none other. We have together with us, we have Leigh Lincoln. Let's bring her forward. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you for having me.
It is quite an honor actually to have you. Now you have developed this series, and it's called the Broken Road series, and you have numerous books, and those books really show us a lot about life itself and the ups and downs, and it's very diverse with regards to it, but it also gives us this inspiring message and a path that things can get better, things can improve. So the books that you have are Road Home, Road to Freedom, Finding the Real Road, and the Road West. And then coming out in November 18th, she got a new book coming out called The Lost Father. And so let's talk a little bit about, why did you decide that you wanted to be an author and tap into that natural ability that you have to really tell a story and put it down, from pen to paper? Tell us about your journey of being an author.
Well, actually, my first book, Road Home, I wrote on accident. I didn't mean to write a novel. There's this whole story behind this. I had been doing homeless and poverty advocacy work for something like 30 years. And one night I was at a community meeting, and the person who was leading it pointed to the politician, to the business leader, to all of these other people at the meeting to hear what they had to say, but he ignored me. And at the end of the meeting, I went up to him to try to tell him what I wanted to say, and he shut me down. And he gave me all these reasons why he didn't want to hear what I had to say. I was just a mom. I was just a volunteer. I didn't have the right education, the right background, the right experience, whatever. And it would have taken him less time to hear what I had to say than for me to hear his excuses. And so I left that meeting angry, frustrated, feeling unimportant, ignored, weak, powerless, etc. Right? And and I was so frustrated. I went home and I put pen to paper, and I just poured my heart out, and night after night after night for months. And I looked at what I'd written months later, and I realized I flipped from writing about myself to writing from the perspective of a homeless woman. And yeah, I legitimately did that.
That's amazing. Number one, I'm sorry that you had to go through something like that made you feel so terrible. Why one person would think that they're so much better than someone else to do that to an individual. It shouldn't have happened. But because it happened, look where you are today. And so sometimes those things that hurt us the most painful, are the ones that motivate us into doing something that we never thought we would do. And so I'm just very pleased that you were able to write these books, because they're all, each and every one is just an outstanding book and tells a whole different story, a journey that we go on. And so, it's amazing that all the work that you do. And I want to again say, and if I didn't mention, and I think that I did, but a portion of the proceeds from all of her novels, each and every one of them, goes directly to charities that serve the homeless. She's really trying to not only create awareness, but also to really change the lives of others. So we really commend you for doing that, and being so kind, to stepping forward. So let's talk a little bit about this first book that you wrote. The first book is The Road Home, right? Road Home.
Yeah, Road
And
Home is my first book. And so it is all about this homeless woman who just had this really horrible life. And she kind of put herself out on the road on purpose because she just needed to find something more in her life other than all of these really horrible things that had happened to her. Abuse in her home life, both as a child and as an adult from her husband. And so once she was out on the road, just things just never kind of clicked at all. And then finally she meets this stranger who convinces her to share her story. And in doing so, she kind of figures out where she went wrong all these years, and how home really isn't what she thought it was because she'd never really seen it modeled properly. And so you slowly unpeel the onion that is her life, because her life has so many layers in it. And that book is really raw and emotional because I have no training as an author. Yes, I cleaned it up some with the help of a writer's group and with the help of a really good editor. But when you hand an editor a hot mess, there's only so much they can do with it. And I hear from a lot of people that, yes, there are some grammar mistakes in it, that it is really, really raw. And I understand that. We did the best we could. But again, it was my first attempt at ever writing anything, and I didn't even mean to write it. So it is what it is.
kudos to
And
you
it's
for doing
beautiful in that sense. So
it. Well, you know what? I really think that it's about the content, right? It's not about whether, a comma is here or misplaced there or whatever. It's not really about that. When we read a book, it's about the content of that book, whether we're learning something, whether we're on a journey of something, whether we just want to escape life itself. We're reading that book. And so I think this is a true message, because so often we're on this road of discovery, personal discovery, right? And I like what you said about what she realized about home. We've got this view of what we think our home should be, people in our home, or what our home should look like, how it should feel. And each and every person has a different journey path, with regards to their life itself. And when they're looking at other people's lives, they look at that and they say, I would like to have a life like, I would like to have a home like that. But they don't know what goes on beyond those four walls, that's within that home. So people paint a pretty picture at times, but reality is sometimes totally different. So your book portrays that. It certainly shares her journey.
yeah, and I also show how homelessness and people who experience homelessness isn't always what you think it is. In my 30-something years of working with homeless people, I've literally met a doctor who lived in his car because he had so much debt from medical school. He couldn't afford to pay off his debt and have an apartment. I mean, and this is someone you would think would have a great job and have a great income, right?
Mhm.
And it's not necessarily what you think it is, right? And so I was kind of trying to show all of this, and in this book, that poverty affects everyone, whether you realize it or not. And especially right now in America, this is more true than ever. You are literally one paycheck away from being homeless, no matter who you are right now, with the inflation being what it is. Because if you have a medical bill that, unexpectedly, like you have a heart attack or cancer, And I know this for a fact because I have somebody who just had cancer, and
Mhm.
their medical bill from that was more than $100,000. Right? How do you pay that? So anyone can end up out on the streets for a variety of reasons, and I really showcase that in this book. And this book is from 2016, and it's just as relevant now as it was then when I wrote it. So,
Yeah.
but but again, these are people that I've worked with on and off for most of my adult life in various capacities. I've worked in soup kitchens, I've worked in homeless shelters, I've worked with community development agencies trying to get people into their first homes so they would try to get some stability in their lives, which is a really hard thing to get, low income families some stability. That's really a difficult thing. And
Mhm.
so I really wanted people to understand all of this. And again, I kind of did this without even thinking about it, just as I was just pouring out my heart. And because this has always been just something that has been on my heart for a very long time, is trying to help all of these people. And it's not something I can do on my own, and it's not something the government can do, and it's not something churches can do. It's something we all have to work together to do, to make sure our neighbors are okay, and make sure our brothers and sisters are okay, whether that means literally or in the figurative sense, right? So yeah, it's a heavy topic, and it's one a lot of people don't want to discuss even.
Yeah, and they're embarrassed over it. I know I help a lot of people through divorce, and many of them all of a sudden find themselves homeless. They find themselves, they might be sleeping at a friend's house. I mean, I experienced it myself. I was staying. I had to stay with my friend, for a while because I just didn't have the funds in which to get an apartment to be able to, pay the rent, pay the electricity, all of that stuff, and go through my divorce and everything. So there was times when I've had to do that. Now I never really kind of considered myself homeless because I wasn't in a cardboard box on the road, but on the street. But that was close to it as uncomfortable it could be. So yeah, so we have a lot of people that are, staying with family or staying with friends or doing something simply because they cannot afford a place to live. So homelessness is there. I mean, it is truly there, and it's becoming more and more as rents are rising, as things are happening. I mean, I know I live in a community where it's an over 55 community, and a lot of the older people here, the rents are starting to go up, and a lot of them are very concerned because they're on fixed incomes, and if it goes up, they're not going to be able to afford to live here, and they're thinking,
Yeah.
what am I going to do? You know, how can I go to work now and make money? And a lot of people say, well, you go work at Walmart. You can't go and work at Walmart. When you're pushing a walker. You know what I mean? You just can't do it. So a lot of people here are starting to become very, very worried about it. So your awareness of that, is really stepping forward and showing that it could just be in a flash that you could be, out and be home, considered homeless, and then what is your journey is. And this gives us an awakening on that. So let's talk about your next book, Road to Freedom. What about that one?
So after I wrote the first one, I was never going to write another one because, well, again,
Like
I
having a baby, you're never going to have another one when you're
exactly.
giving birth
So
to that one.
so several years later, after people kept yelling at me how much they loved the first one and I really need to write another one, I finally gave in to all of these readers who were just like crazy
Mhm.
antsy about me writing another one. So the second one, Road to Freedom, is about a man who's dying of cancer. And he convinces this woman to marry him because he doesn't want to die alone. And then he takes her to Cuba and Spain where he's lived before. And then along this journey, he tries to right all his wrongs and fix the unfixable before he dies, which a lot of people with cancer try to do. And so it's this poignant love story between these two people as he's facing death and trying to make sense of his life before he dies. And again, it is a love story. I think Nicholas Sparks kind of thing, where you see this beautiful love story between the two of them as he's dying and trying to make sense of his life. So again, it's also a journey story, which is why it's got road in it. And you hear all of his tales from when he lived in Cuba and when he lived in Spain and as he immigrated to America. So you get the whole panorama of his life throughout the book. And you also get little touches of his bride's story, because it flip-flops between his story and her story. So you get little touches of her story and why she's willing to give up everything to marry this man, so he won't die alone.
Oh, wow, that's touching. That's very touching. And again, that's life because, often as we move forward, in our lives and we become into that last quarter, we start wondering, do we really want to be alone? Do we, we've got a few good years left, or however time we do. And like with him, he knew that time was ticking, and so let's spend it to the best that we can spend it and share it with somebody,
Yeah.
Isn't that the most wonderful thing? Isn't that the most ultimate thing that we truly want to do? We truly do want to, share our life with someone. So yeah, I think it sounds beautiful. It sounds like a wonderful book, even though again, it has that emotional, depth.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's totally a tug at your heartstrings tearjerker, because again, think Nicholas Sparks' love story, which is, you are going to sob your eyes out during this one. I make no bones about that.
Oh no. So let's talk about finding the real road. What is
So
that?
Finding the Real Road is again a journey story. So it's about this woman with a really, really bad marriage. And so she finally divorces the guy and then moves all the way across the other side of the country and tries to rebuild her life after divorce. And so it again has a few touching moments, and then it has some funny moments too, as she's rebuilding this really uh, atrocious house, because she bought like the worst house she could possibly find, because she just really didn't care, because her life is a disaster. And so yeah, that's what that's about, is her trying to rebuild not just a house but her life in the process. And which, because after divorce, yeah, your life is a train wreck no matter how you look at it.
Yeah. It doesn't matter. Yeah, it doesn't
Yeah.
matter. It definitely is. And that there's something said for that because she's working not only on building her life but building her life in a new environment, and then also pouring her energy into building a home for herself. And so I've often said to those that are moving through divorce is to focus on building, taking ownership of your life, taking ownership of it. And part of it is your home, taking ownership of your home. So that's great. I mean, that's truly a very good book, and totally our audience here can relate, and definitely would be a good read for them. And then the next book, The Road West.
So The Road West is it's about an older woman who almost had an affair when she was younger. And now a stranger brings letters to her from the other half of that equation of the affair, that were never sent. And so you see her story, and all the guilt she had. And then you see what happened to the man who was the other half of that equation through the letters. And so again, you slowly hear the two stories and the journeys of their two lives after they almost had this affair when they were younger.
Yeah, what it sounds like to me is like so often we don't realize how we touch other people's lives,
Yeah.
how it can make that transition. And so it sounds like in the book that that she was able to make that, that feeling for him, that he definitely had feelings for her, and it did a transformation of his life.
It
And
transformed both their lives in ways that they didn't expect. And then you kind of see this butterfly effect with this rippling out, and it affected not just the two of them but everyone they kind of were in contact afterwards. because it affected how he looked at life afterwards, how she looked at life afterwards, her husband, his relationship with his wife at the time. And so you see all these little ripple waves coming out of this one moment in time. And so it was really fun to write and make sure you get all the little effects out there. And so it was really fun to write, and I really enjoyed writing it. So it was.
That's amazing because it is true. Each and every one that you meet and you have a relationship with, some sort of relationship, you have created that ripple effect, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
within their lives, whether it be positive or negative or however. And it's amazing that for you as an author that you can capture that and be able to move forward with that. That is truly wonderful. And then that brings us to the last book, which is not out yet, so we can't share too much about it. But the Lost Father, Lost Father. Tell us a
Yes.
little bit about that.
So
Coming out
this is
November 18th.
yeah, this is a new series called Path to Family. And the first book is Lost Father. And the series is going to be basically one story told 4 different ways. So it is all about adoption. And so the first book, Lost Father, is from the birth father's perspective. So it shows his whole journey from the moment he got his girlfriend pregnant to when he hears from this child years later, when he's old. So you see his whole life and his whole journey through life. And it's like all my books, though, where you slowly hear the story throughout the book. So you get pieces along the way. And so I'm really excited about this because I myself was adopted and I recently found my birth father. So uh, although I started writing this book before I found my father, but that's a whole nother issue. But yeah, so the second book will be from the birth mother, and then the third book will be the adoptive parents, and then the fourth book will finally be from the child. So it's going to be one story, but 4 different perspectives on basically the same story.
I'm
And
excited about that book because as I shared with you when we were talking about pre the show, was my mother was adopted, and we didn't really know about her upbringing. So therefore, I don't really know about my ancestors, and so I did that. I asked my daughter for, she always said, "What do you want for Christmas?" And I said, "I really want that." What, me 23 or whatever it is, 23 me, whatever.
yeah,
I wanted that because I wanted to know a little bit more about my heritage, because I know nothing and other than my dad, which is German and that kind of thing. And so, yeah, so I mean, I could totally understand that. And so I would probably be what, like the grand, like my kids would be the grand. I would be the granddaughter, right? I'd be the granddaughter
yeah.
because my mother was adopted. So I'd be the granddaughter. And it's like, yeah, it does totally affect your life. And so I think this is a very interesting book, it's a series of books. So it's going to be very interesting on that. And, I want to thank you for bringing that forward because I think that those out there that are adopted would certainly, or have members in their family that are adopted, would certainly relate to this book and the journey of it and understand, because there's something about it, that it's just hard to explain, with regards to being adopted or being in a family where there's adoption, isn't there?
Yeah, and there's so much involved because back in the day it was considered really shameful to have children out of wedlock, and a lot of people didn't talk about it, and a lot of people who were adopted didn't even know they were. I always knew, but I've interviewed a lot of people in relation to this book, and heard a lot of stories from a lot of different angles. I talked to people who were birth parents and gave up their kids, and then kids who were adopted, and it's very emotional on everyone's end. There's a lot of shame, there's a lot of guilt, there's a lot of misunderstandings, and it's just, and I wanted to really showcase all of this. And so you see that in this lost father, where he just really has a hard time with life because he thinks he did something wrong. Well, he knows he did something wrong because he just basically ghosted his girlfriend, right? And so he knows he did something wrong, but he doesn't know how to fix it, and it just causes a lot of problems. And so you see this played out in the book, and then but that it's realistic, and it's very raw and emotional. But from my perspective, adoption is one of the greatest gifts ever, because I knew from when I was very small, my parents made it really clear that I was a chosen child. They chose to have me. They picked me. They selected me. I was chosen. And so when I met my father for the first time, I explained this to him, and the look on his face was kind of interesting because it was not something he thought of that way, because all he could see was his own guilt in this whole situation, right? And so I want people to understand both sides of this, and how beautiful it is, how much of a gift it is. No matter which side you're on, this is a life that is given to someone that really, really wants a child. And
Yeah.
that's ultimately what it comes down to.
Mhm. Yeah, and they can go on to have a beautiful life. I mean, I have two children that are adopted, and have beautiful. I hope they feel they have beautiful lives, but they are definitely loved from me, and I know from their father. So yeah, so they can go on to have very wonderful lives. But yeah, it's really neat to see it from different perspectives. And then of course, like you said, back in the day when it was such a shameful taboo type of thing. There were a lot of people, being young and a little careless, and then get pregnant, and then they'd be sent away to have children, and have the children, and then they'd be taken away and put into foster care or whatever. And so it's like it's a whole different um, animal than it is today. So it's like totally different. So I want to thank you for doing this, and making us aware, and allowing us to be able to step into those shoes a little bit and have a little compassion for our mankind. Understand that those who have taken that journey, it's not always been an easy step to take. So yeah, I want to thank you for that. So it's wonderful. So now, how do we get these books? Right now we're hooked, and we want to talk these books. So how do we get them?
The best way is to go to my website. All the information about all of the books, except for Lost Father, of course, is on my website. Um, uh, there's links to purchase the books directly for print books on my website. And then there are links to Amazon right from my website. You can find my social media on my website. Just go to LeighLincolnAuthor.com. Super easy. Everything's there. All the information is there. I just made it super easy. Just go to my website. You can find more about me. You can find where I'm going to be doing events for signings. You can find everything about me on my website.
Yeah, and it's wonderful too. And on the website, if you want to take a little bit more time, read up about a little bit each of the books, she's got more information there. So that's really great. So it's Leigh Lincoln, and it's Leigh, and then LinkedIn, LINCOLN, author.com. So Leigh, Leigh, Lincoln, LINCOLN. So just go to our website, author.com. Go to our website and check it out. Just remember that when you purchase a book, you're going to change someone's life, because every time you purchase a book, a portion of the proceeds are going to be going to a charity that is directly serves a homeless person. So we want to make sure that you understand that, and that the holidays are quickly approaching. Cold weather is quickly upon us here. Summer is about over. We're getting into fall. And so the homeless people, really, individuals truly do need your help. And so if nothing more, by purchasing a book, you can help in that direction. So, do yourself a favor, buy some Christmas presents, get some books, give them to people to read, because reading a book is a good thing to do. And we're in this fast pace of life. Let's slow down, grab a book, put our feet up a little bit, and let's read. Get into the story, get into the walk of it. And yeah, I appreciate everything you do. Thank you so much, Leigh.
Thank you. Oh, and one other thing, the print books, if you purchase them from the website, they are signed, and so that's really fun. And they come with a bookmarker. So
Wow, that makes a great gift then.
yeah,
You could buy the whole series and give them to someone, and it's a great gift to give, and they're all autographed. So that's a pretty cool thing to have them autographed. So definitely, guys, run to her website. It's LeighlIncoln author.com. So just go there. You can buy the books there. She'll autograph them and get them out to you, and then they make a wonderful gift. Maybe you can read it first, or give it away. I always think you should share a book, right? When you have a good book that you enjoy, read it and then give it to somebody else so they can share it. So
most
thank you so
definitely.
much. Any last words you want to share with our audience?
Nope. Just keep watching out on the website for when the pre-orders for Lost Father will be available, which will be coming up very soon.
Yeah, I'm excited about it. So let's go over the books again, just so everybody knows. You have the Broken Road series, which is Road Home, Road to Freedom, Finding the Real Road, and The Road West. Then we're going to be beginning a new series of The Lost Father, and then it'll continue on with that series of adoption. And so taking it through the journey of life as you progress in that. So that's going to be very interesting series indeed. So thank you again. We truly appreciate you. You are an author, speaker, you're a mom and a world traveler, and I want to thank you for slowing down and being with us here today.
Yep, I am pleased to be here, and this was fun.
Yeah, it is great. All right, everyone. You're listening to WGSN-DB Going Solo Network. I am Cece Schatz, a doyen of relationship building. You're listening to Going Solo Life After Relationship Loss, and we hope that you enjoyed the show. All of our information is right there on goingsolomedia.com. So just check it out. Check out all of our hosts, all of our wonderful guests, such as Leigh, and we'll have all the information there that you can purchase her books, and make sure you check out they'll be in the show notes too. So when you're watching this show, you can go ahead and just click right on her website, go straight in, and just purchase those books. So we would appreciate that. All right, everyone, take care. Love you. We'll catch you next time.